pretty sure we're just here live. And if you're just joining me or you're not here yet, I welcome you anyhow as we start to prepare for our Sunday morning gentle chair yoga. So I'm going to just take a few moments to make sure everybody's kind of here and we're on. And we'll talk about the props that we're going to use today and sort of the type of practice we're going to do. And so as you get yourself situated, bring that a little bit of a towel or a cushion on the seat might make it helpful for the pelvis to tilt forward. And that can be really helpful for the body. So taking that time to try that. Okay. So my phone with me nearby so I can double check that I'm actually on air. All right. And then finding something to work on the bottom of your foot today. So some examples. Stick, fancy word for dowel, maybe a rolling stick. Here would be like an actual fascia ball. So you can see it's got spikes on it and it's sort of intended to work on the connective tissue. Sometimes this is too much. Sometimes a dowel is too much for the foot. You can always sort of titrate the amount of pressure you put in because we're seated. But then something else that might be helpful would be perhaps using a squash ball or tennis ball or something even softer. But squash balls are great. If you do have really sensitive feet, then I would encourage you to try something softer or just choose to do less pressure. And that's key. So I need enough pressure that you feel some sensation, but not so much that you feel everything tensing up in the body. So whatever you're using today, I'm going to help just take a moment to pick your item that you might be using. There we go. Okay. So I hope that I'm live here. I don't see it showing up, but it's hard for me to tell when I'm the only one in the room here. Let's just see. Okay. So I'm going to start with the feet. And so you're going to choose to start with the foot of your choice. Whatever you're using, you might sit a bit at the edge of the chair. And then as you come close to the dowel, you're going to first start with placing one foot on your dowel. And you can start with just a little bit of movement in your foot. So I'm just moving it up and down. And as we kind of get acquainted with your foot today, I'm just going to kind of talk about a few things that you might find helpful as you work on your practice today. Okay, there we go. I see I'm live. Okay. I am my own tech support today. Next week I have my other half back to give me some support in the technical department. So, all right. So as you're working on the bottom of the foot, I just wanted to address something that's really important in yoga that sometimes gets missed, especially in the West, as we tend to think more is better. You know, going farther is better. And in yoga, it's not necessarily the case, especially when we're working with our bodies, is that mainly this is a practice of kindness, observation. So noticing where there's sensation, trying to be compassionate and kind around the limitations that might come up in your body. And then there's an important philosophy that you can bring into your practice that will help keep you in a state where the practice is therapeutic for you and it's not going too far. And the Sanskrit saying is Stiram Sukham Asanam. And this loosely translates to mean to be practicing yoga is to find the balance between effort and effortlessness. So if it's complete effortlessness, then our mind can kind of shut off and make grocery lists and such. And yoga is ultimately a practice in engaging our mind in the present moment through our movements. So we want enough engagement or enough challenge, whether that's balancing or in the movements, for our mind to stay in the present moment in the practice. We want to have enough effort that we're feeling the body and that we're feeling sensation. But we want enough effortlessness that we're not feeling strain, shaking, the breath is not labored, and there should not be a movement that causes you pain. And if that is the case today, take that opportunity to leave that movement out for now. Might not be forever, but it might be for now. The other thing you might try, if you're doing a movement, say with the shoulder, and you get to here and it's good, and then you get to here and everything tenses up, and now I've hit my limitation and there's pain telling me. Pain is a way of your body giving you information. So that might mean, okay, maybe I can do the movement, but maybe the movement that's available to me is this rather than this. And there's where that kindness and that lack of, using, sort of pausing from our ability to, or our tendency to judge our movements and, oh, I should be able to do this. It's just to see, what can I do? Where can I move today that feels manageable and it's not causing me strain, discomfort, or pain? It might be a little bit of achy discomfort if it's just I'm stiff from sleeping. That's a different thing. So we're working on this foot for a moment here. Last thing we're going to do on the side before we move to the other foot is just find a spot. Maybe it's in the middle of the foot. Maybe it's a little more at the front of the foot. Maybe it's a little more back at the heel. Somewhere that you might feel you could come a little forward. And so I'm going to place my hands on my thighs. I'm going to take a big breath. On the exhale, I'm going to think of hinging at the hip crease to come forward to add a little extra pressure to the foot. And if this feels too much, then do less. If you come up only halfway, you're sort of limiting that amount of pressure in the foot. That might be better than coming all the way. And so really this is a practice about noticing and also about nurturing what's available to you today. So as you come up, you might just move through the whole foot here. Thinking of this as a warm-up for lengthening the hamstrings, grounding the psoas muscle, and helping encourage flexibility in the fascia in the foot, which will then in turn help us feel more stable in our standing movements and our balances. So when you're ready, I'm going to move on to the other foot. So as you come off of the dowel, if it's available and you have bare feet today, you might lift up the toes, spread them out, and place them on the floor so that you feel a lot of spaciousness between the feet, between the toes as best you can. It's hard to see. I don't have black toenail polish on. Somebody said that's what it looked like. I'm wearing silicone toe spacers, and those are also to help facilitate opening of the foot. The foot kind of gets smushed together from all the shoes we wear. So this can be helpful in a practice. It's not required, but that's what you see between my feet if you're curious. So I'm going to move the dowel over to the other foot. I'm going to start with some light, gentle movements. There we go. So we're just warming up the fascia in the bottom of the foot. Start easy, gentle movement here. So you can think that our fascia really is our sensory organ in the body, and it's everywhere. It's surrounding all your muscles, your joints, your blood vessels. It encases sort of our organs and gives them sort of separate protection, but then it connects. Same with the muscles, it kind of surrounds the muscles and then connects to other things. So through the fascia, really everything is sort of encased and connected to each other. Just the idea of biotensegrity. Yeah. And so fascia needs gentle movement in order to stay movable, hydrated, and kind of slimy and allows things to move and slide in the body. So if you're doing a range of motion, you'll feel a sticky, clunky bit. That might be an indication that there's a little bit of sort of some stickiness in the fascia there. And in that case, a larger movement is not going to be helpful in letting that fascia relax and hydrate. It might be a smaller range of motion. So keep that in mind that often less is better. If you are encountering stickiness, clunkiness, or discomfort in a movement. And sometimes that's the biggest challenge, is doing less. So find a place on the foot that you might explore going a little further. So that could be closer to the heel, could be the middle of the foot, could be maybe a little more into the knuckles where the bubbling springs resides, somewhere in the foot. Okay, so just one foot on the dowel, could be on a ball. I'm going to place the hands on the thighs, avoid the knee joint. Big breath. Exhale, hinging at the hip crease. As you come forward, see, you might look down at the foot. If that pressure is feeling good, you might stay here for another breath. If it's too much, come out. Very good. And then when you're ready, pressing into the thighs to come up. And then just one last time, rolling through the foot, you might explore the outer edge of the foot, inner edge of the foot. And so next week's practice, we won't start with the footwork. Well, I would hope that if you find this helpful, that maybe if you're sitting and you're here at 5 to 10, that maybe you start to incorporate this into your pre-yoga practice or just into your daily life in general. Sitting down in the morning to do it or at night to help with that circulation, flexibility, and nourishment of fascia and that sense of awareness in our feet. When you're ready, I invite you to take the dowel out or whatever you're using and then put it safely out of your way so it's not going to get in your way. Very good. All right. So the last thing I just want to talk about today before we start our movement practice is the core line in the body. So when we were just working on the bottom of the foot, we were working on all the connective tissue in the back body, and this kind of connects into the hamstrings. And this back line of connective tissue starts as a sheath under the foot, moves up the back body. A lot of you might know this. Goes all the way up the back body, over the crown of the head, and attaches under the eyebrows. So this is a layer of tissue that's connected into the back line. It's called your superficial back line. The superficial front line is sort of at the front of the toes here, coming all the way up the front body and sort of ending at the base of the chin. The deep core line, however, a lot of times when we talk about core, people just think abdominals. Such a bigger idea when we start to talk about the deep core line that runs starting under your mound of your big toe. So it starts kind of under the mound of the big toe, and this layer kind of comes to the inside of the inner foot, kind of across the ankle, up the inner calf muscle here, inner knee, inner thigh, these are your adductor muscles, into pelvic floor, up along the spine, and attaches at the back of the jaw. So what might be helpful to sense this idea of how can we be grounded and lengthened and connected to our core line? You might start with lifting up your toes as we did at the beginning, spreading them out, placing them on the floor. And if you can, I want you to think about pressing down through the mound under your big toe, your pinky toe, and your heel. So if you were pressing down into those three spots and then letting the body sit up really tall. Very good. And so I have myself seated a little bit forward in the chair. I'm just going to turn it to the side so you can see. So we're going to begin our movement of pelvis and my favorite warm-up. So I'm sitting a bit at the edge of the chair. Know that I have the blanket that's just under the sit bones. And then my pelvis is able to slightly tilt forward because of the towel or the seat. Just notice that sometimes if people are sitting on chairs like this, the back is already rounded before you begin, which can be really hard to get into the movement of the pelvis. So by sitting on the edge of a blanket, just under the sit bones, it's great if you're doing a lot of computer work too. Encourages that slight tilt of the pelvis forward, which means that it encourages the natural curve in your spine. And it also will help so that the diaphragm and the pelvic floor can function. So there's lots of reasons why this might be a helpful little thing you put into your daily life if you sit a lot. With your hands on your thighs, avoid the knee. Your thigh bone is strong, so you can press into the leg bones a little bit with the palms. Sitting up tall, take a breath here. On the exhale, as you hinge forward, the heels are going to lift. So a great first movement for any practice here is the movement of the pelvis. So as you come up, pelvis is at neutral, chin into the chest as you lean back. The pelvis is sort of tucking back. So think of a rocking chair. You're going to come up, hinging at the hip as you come forward. If it feels good, the heels lifting will add a little extra traction in the lumbar spine, a little spaciousness there maybe. As you come up, heels come down. As you lean back, the tendency is that the head will start kind of doing this. So I encourage you to just keep the chin moving gently towards the chest, just so we kind of protect the neck. So try that one more time on your own. Hinging forward, lifting the heels. Coming up. Heels come down. Leaning back. And with your breath today, I'm encouraging you as you come back to center just to find an easeful way of breathing that works for you. It's a really layered practice, the breath practice. The first is just to notice the breath and see if you can come back to it. If you notice you've kind of wandered away, thinking, planning, worrying, Just think if you can come back and just see, think of the in-breath as creating spaciousness in the body, and the out-breath as this gentle gathering, but also letting go through the outer layers. So the in-breath, the belly expands, the rib expands. The exhale, everything just slightly gathers back towards your center. Just find a way to breathe that's easeful for you today. So that could be in the nose, out the mouth. Might be in the nose, out the nose. Generally speaking, encourage in the nose, out the nose mostly, unless we're using the sigh breath to help release held tension. And so for our next movement, we'll see if we can bring that linking of breath and movement together. Cat-cow from a chair. I'm going to start with my hands a little on the edges of the knees. On my first breath in the nose, if you can, as I breathe in, I'm going to slide the hands all the way to my hips here, sitting up as tall as I can. There might be a little bit of a back arch. You might look up slightly. So this is the in-breath. On the exhale, as your hands slide forward, think of chin coming into your chest and your upper back rounding. Try that a few times. So think inhale, undulating the spine into its fullest length. This is your spinal extension. Exhale, hands sliding towards your knees, chin coming into the chest, sliding, stretching the arms over the knees. Think of a cat stretch here. Inhale, undulation and lengthening of the spine. Exhale, hands slide forward, chin coming into the chest, upper back getting a stretch. Try that one more time. Again, if you encounter some sensitivity or you have a back injury, then you might find this motion, there's some discomfort. In which case, be curious about what about a smaller movement. So I'll just show you, one of my students, they were recovering from an injury in the spine. We know we want to keep the spine movable and flexible, otherwise it gets stiffer and stiffer. We don't want to move it beyond a comfortable range of motion. So at the beginning, this was the motion. A little length, a little bit of rounding. A little bit of length, a little bit of rounding. And then as this person got a little more comfortable and healing and the back was feeling better, they were able to start to explore a larger range of motion. So again, keep in mind, smaller movements might be beneficial if you're having discomfort, pain, or recovering from an injury. That's it. Good. Now as you come back up to your center, I'm just going to stay seated sideways just to help just show you this first movement, and then I'll turn back to center. So if we were to link our breath and movement with a very gentle twist, we would start at center, take a breath. Choosing one hand is going to slide towards your hip, and your body turns in that direction comfortably. So I'm going only in a range of motion that is facilitated without force. And then on the inhale, I'm going to bring my body back to center. And on the exhale, I'm going to turn the other way, sliding the hand towards the hip, looking over the shoulder. So try that a few more times. Inhaling to center, get lengthening the spine. Exhale as you gently turn to look over your shoulder, kind of like a shoulder check in a car. Inhale to center, and exhale to turn. Very good. Good. Try one more of those. Inhale to center, exhale to turn. Inhale to center, and exhale to turn. Good. Yeah, as you come back to your first position, at any time if you need a break, we're sitting at the edge of the chair and I'm encouraging you to sit up tall. After a while, those back muscles that are helping you sit up tall, some of the core body muscles in the body, as they get tired, I kind of often in my regular classes will witness people kind of starting to slouch. And rather than slouching, if you need a little rest and you're wanting, kind of feeling your lower back is starting to tire, try that forward folded position with the heel lift. This might give you a little release in your lower back, a little bit of stretch, so that you can come back to that first position and feel comfortable and seated tall. So I'm going to turn around back to the center here. And I would like to just take our spinal movements first as a way to encourage that gentle fluidity in the spine. And then one thing I will mention is that this class I base on gentle chair yoga, and I base this on an older adult with the assumption that many older adults have weaker bones for lots of different reasons, whether it's osteopenia or osteoporosis. And then this is why small, gentle range of motion is key. We're not trying to force the body into any impressive positions. For example, sometimes you'll see in chair yoga people will hold the chair and pull on the body to do a twist. And I steer away from that in this class so that it's really available to most bodies. So whatever is the range of motion that you can do within a comfortable range of motion is going to be very common, is going to be beneficial for maintaining the movement of the spine. You really do, if you do have osteoporosis, want to avoid really large spinal movements. So things that are small within a range that's comfortable for you. And we're going to talk about that now with some side bending and one more little twist. So starting at center, we did this last week, so I just want to review fingertips to sternum. So I'm going to start with my right fingertips on my sternum, sitting up tall, still sitting at the edge of the chair. I'm going to extend my right arm out to the side, and my left arm is going to come and hold the outside of my right thigh. Thumb's pointing up. I'm going to turn my head to look at my right thumb. Take a big breath. And then as you exhale, just see how far you can go comfortably. So you take the arm behind you and your head looks. So you get to that place that's of comfort for you, that's in your twist. Take one more breath here. Think of the spine lengthening. And then on the exhale, as you come back to your first position, you can bend the elbow and bring the fingertips to the sternum. All right, so now our side bend. So I'm going to see if the arm extends overhead comfortably, great. If it doesn't, you can keep your arm at your side and do a side bend without, or you can even keep your hand on your shoulder. Okay, so if the arm isn't going overhead, that's okay. You don't have to have the arm overhead. So I'm going to try to relax the shoulder. Sometimes it's up here. You just kind of try to see if I can let shoulder relax. For this side bend, let's think with side bends, you want to think of maintaining as much length in your spine as possible as you bend to the side versus kind of collapsing over to the side. So think length first. So we're evenly weighted in our sit bones here, lengthening through the crown of the head. And we're going to slowly side bend to the left, just a little bit. I want you to keep both sit bones evenly weighted on your seat. Yeah, so it doesn't have to be a big motion. Take a breath and come up. And the arm can come down. And then your right arm is going to hold onto the left thigh, and your left fingertips come to your sternum. So as you sit up tall here, as you extend your arm out, you could turn your head to look at your thumb. Lengthen the spine, take a breath. On the exhale, see if you can gently follow the arm behind you, wherever that is still a comfortable range. You will just get to a spot where the body won't go any further comfortably, and then just see if you can take a breath here. And then when you're ready, as you come back to your first position, fingertips might come to the sternum. You might see about extending the arm overhead if that's comfortable for you. Encourage the shoulder to relax down into the socket. Sitting evenly in both sit bones, lengthening through the crown of the head. Take a breath here. And just a tiny little side bend to the other side. Keep anchoring that left sit bone. So what's going to often happen for people is they feel like their weight starts shifting. I'm going to encourage you to keep that anchored so that it's really just the side waist. And then the arm comes down. Wonderful. So then as your hands come back to your knees, you might hinge forward again, lift the heels, sort of as counter movement. For most movements in the seated practice, anytime you need a break, that little forward fold with the heel lift might be helpful. All right, so now we're going to work with weight shifting and how that sense of our sit bones and where are we seated evenly? Sometimes it's not necessarily the case. I just want you to encourage as best you can your weight to feel even in both sit bones, and then see if you can shift your weight to your right sit bone, back to center, to the left. So you might kind of feel the bum lift a little on that opposite side. Doesn't have to actually lift, but just seeing that your body weight is shifting over to one side. and then the other. Okay, good. So now we're going to add the movement all the way around. So I encourage you to shift your weight to your right sit bone, and then see if you can come a little forward on the sit bone, moving over to the left sit bone, and then maybe to the back of that sit bone, and over, and to the front. So you start to resemble a Weeble. Anybody remember the Weeble toys? Good. A little to one side and forward, and over to the other side. So really just focusing on the sensation of your body weight shifting. One sit bone, then to the front of that sit bone, to the front center, to the side, to the back, and around. Try the other direction a few times. Side, doesn't have to be big. Good. And then once you come back to center, I'm just going to talk about your thoracic spine for a moment. All right, so the thoracic spine and the rib cage is sort of this whole midsection here. Very good. So we're going to do that same motion, but we're going to see if we can get our rib cage. So the rib cage can kind of move sideways, can move back, can move forward. We do not often articulate this motion or isolate it. So if there's a lot of stiffness there, just encourage you to just explore. We started with that same movement for the sit bones, but we're going to add the rib cage. Let's just start with sitting at the back of the sit bone. So I'm going to turn my chair sideways, and this might look a little more obvious for you. So it almost looks like the cat-cow, the back ribs. I'm going to see if I can send my rib cage to the back of the hula hoop. If you were sitting in the middle of a hula hoop, and then my rib cage to the side, and then the rib cage forward to the other side and back. So you're just thinking of the rib cage getting into this movement. So I was imagine I was seated in the inside of a hula hoop or a circle, and I'm trying to get my rib cage to come to the front, to the side, to the back. Could be a lot smaller than this range of motion I'm showing you today. You might be doing a motion that's this big. Okay? Whatever's available to you. Might be a lot of stiffness in the thoracic spine. That's quite common. This is a helpful one for helping to get some mobility in this thoracic spine. Yeah, I'm going to sit forward and let's try it in the other direction just to see what that's like. So usually I start with thinking of my ribs moving to the back of the hula hoop, then a little over to one side, then bringing the ribs forward to the other side, back, over, forward, over. So you'll notice that the weight might start shifting in your sit bones as you do this, even though your main focus is the rib cage. That's it. Very good. And then take a moment in your time once you come back to your first position. We'll shoulder roll up, back and down. A little shrug. All right, now we're going to take a moment in child's pose. So see in child's pose, we'll keep the feet flat. It's very similar to that back release where you come forward and lift your heels. We'll keep the heels on the ground. You might choose to use your hands on your thighs, or it might be your forearms. Lots of people have been here lots of times in their life. So it could be your hands if that's too much, come onto the forearms. But if the forearms resting on the thigh bones feels comfortable, you might just look straight down at your feet. And if you want to do a little neck stretch here, encourage all the muscles in your face to relax, softening the jaw. And then just gently drawing your chin a little more in towards your chest. Take a little sigh breath here, maybe to help release any held tension that might be in the back of the neck and the shoulders. Encourage again the jaw and the face to relax. If it's comfortable for you, you might start a very little neck stretch by moving your chin a little over to one shoulder. Pause when you feel some sensation. Doesn't have to be big, could be a micromillimeter of movement. Coming back to your center. Once you're at center, just take a moment to pause. Encourage the jaw to soften. And then you might try a little teeny tiny movement to the other side. Just noticing how very small the movement is. And I kind of avoid big sweeping neck circles. So really going into very small movements. Pausing back at center. And when you're ready, bring your hands to your thighs. Press down into the thigh bones to slowly come up. And then we'll take some movement into the shoulder once more. So we're going to try the shoulder rolls here. So think of the shoulders sliding forward and up, gently back, gently down. And if you're curious, especially if you're doing this at home and you're by yourself and it doesn't feel uncomfortable to close your eyes, you might just take a moment to close your eyes. If that causes you dizziness or discomfort, then certainly you don't have to. But if it is comfortable for you, it may be a helpful way to send your awareness more into the internal body and the internal sensations rather than the external sort of what the movement looks like. So in this case, the awareness I'm encouraging you to draw is into your shoulders, sliding forward and up, sliding back towards the back of your chair, sliding down towards your sit bones. See how that's like for you. Again, if you encounter the sticky, clunky shoulder, for me, I got a little bit of a click on one side, then take the movement and make it smaller. So if you have injuries in the shoulders, you're going to hear me say a lot of do less, smaller motion. If you were to do that movement in a smaller range of motion, you might sense a little softening, a little more ease. And then when fascia starts to relax and hydrate again, then the movement might be able to go a little larger. Maybe not today. Now we're going to try tension release for the shoulder. So this is where we're going to actively tense the shoulders up towards your ear, activating those upper traps here. On the exhale, let the shoulders relax, let the face relax, let the shoulders descend. You try that 2 more times. My preference is to go really slow on the release. Some people's preference is to let the shoulders drop quite quickly. You can do whatever works for you. Very good. Wonderful. Last little shoulder roll, up, back, and down. Let me bring my elbows close, palms up. So in this position with the palms facing up and the elbows close, it encourages the scapula, shoulder blade, to slide down and under into its rightful place. This will really help us with our posture, but also understanding our the movement of the rotator cuff. So here you go. You have your palms facing up. Just encourage you to do a little bit of a warm-up for the rotator cuff. So your palms moving a little out to the sides. Notice my elbows are kind of quite close to the side body still. Yeah, so just try that a few times. When the hands come back in front of you, you might switch the hand that crosses on top. All right, so the next movement, when your hands are sort of out to the sides, extend your arms down so that you have your hands out to the sides. Spread out your fingers for a moment. And then just gently curl your fingers in, your thumb, curling the hand into the shoulder. And now go slow. This is where if you have a restriction, you might even find it challenging to hold the hands on the shoulder. See what's available, and then see where the elbows will go comfortably. So for some people, they'll go all the way up in the air here. And for some people, it might be that one's here and one's here. Okay, meet your body where it is now in this moment. And if you're wherever you are in your fullest range with your elbows, see if you can unfurl the arms, stretching them out. Stretch out the hands. Fingers curl in, thumb curls in, hand curls into shoulder. As the elbows come into about shoulder height, try the circle. A little circle forward. That's it. And then a little circle backwards. So you start with small circles and then explore what is a comfortable, fuller range of motion for you. That's it. Try 1 or 2 more of those. Very good. And then the last little movement in this series or shoulder, head, neck. The elbows are out to the sides. I'm going to bring the elbows towards each other in front, and I'm going to let my chin come in towards my chest a bit. So there's a bit of an upper back rounding to stretch the neck and the back of the shoulders. As the elbows come out to the side, as you look forward, you might be able to pull the elbows a little behind you. Try that one more time. Elbows coming towards each other, chin towards your chest. It's a little bit of that cat-cow movement. Looking straight ahead, the elbows moving towards the wall behind you. Good. And then as the elbows float out and out to the sides, you can just extend the arms. Let's take a little stretch for your shoulder blades. All right, so there's lots of ways of doing this one. Today I thought we could try it with the palms up. So as you extend the arms in front of you, palms up, see if you can cross one arm on top. Once you cross them wherever they are, it's going to look different for everybody. And you're going to bend at the elbows. So in this position, the hands for some people wrap really around each other like so. For some people, the arms are going to look like this. Right? It's not really that important what it looks like. It's important what you feel. Essentially, our intention is to feel stretch in the back of your shoulder blades. So encourage your head to stay centered, maybe looking at the arms in front of you. And if you feel comfortable, you might explore the elbows moving a little bit up towards the ceiling and maybe a little bit down towards your legs to notice if that shoulder blade stretch changes at all for you. So you come back to your first position, okay, unravel the arms, extend them out. Notice which arm is on top. Take a breath, allow the arms to extend out to the side to a comfortable range for you, and then the other arm is coming on top. Once that's there, see if you can bend at the elbows. So it could look like this. For some people, they wrap around each other. Again, optional. Now imagine someone was moving your elbows a little bit up towards the ceiling and a little bit down towards your legs. That's it. So one last time. Good. And once you come back to your first position, you unravel the arms and take them out. And now we'll do another little shoulder blade release, just a bear hug. So you might just give yourself a bear hug here and hinge forward and lift the heels. There's that nice stretch. You can bring your chin into your chest. And then as you come up, whichever arm is on top, I'm going to encourage you to switch. Take a breath, arms stretch out. Exhale, the arms cross over. Big bear hug for yourself. Hinging forward, the heels might lift here. Very good. And as you come up, take the arms back to your legs, shoulder roll. Anytime you're feeling tension, that little tension shrug might be helpful. So let's warm up the hip joint now. So we warmed up our spine and the shoulders, done some neck work. So now see if you can lift your toes, turn them out, noticing how your knee turned out, your leg turned out, so you're externally rotating. Foot comes down. Lift your heels, turn them out, put them down. Lift your toes, turn them out, place them down. Lift your heels, turn them out, place them down. So explore what's comfortable for you. Everybody's range of motion is going to be different. It's not about going past your comfort. So for a lot of people, this is way too wide. Just encouraging you to see what's comfortable today. So toes lift, come in, heels lift, come in, toes lift, come in, heels lift, come in. And then we're going to find a comfortable wide angle with the legs. So we're going to bring the toes up and out and down, heels up and out and down. So for me, about one more of those, maybe two. That's a really comfortable wide angle for me. I always have to readjust how I'm sitting so I don't feel like I'm sliding out of the chair. So my feet, I've got sort of a Y kind of position with the legs. Notice that my ankle is still under my knee. So just notice if your feet are out here, you still want to have your heels stacking under your knee. Very good. All right. So we're going to bring our hands up. And I'm going to invite you to turn to face your right leg. So just see, this is a great opportunity too, to see what is a comfortable range of motion for you without force. So as you turn to face that right leg, there is your comfortable twisting capacity of your spine without force. Not a lot. Hands come to your thigh. And if it's comfortable here, you could go a little further by sliding your hands gently down the leg and up. I do this one every class as well. It's a really nice way to check in with some of these bigger back muscles in the spine that connect your pelvis to your rib cage, called the QL. Yeah, try it one last time. Very good. Okay. Wonderful. As you come back to your first position, my hands up. I'm going to turn gently to face the other leg. It's on the thigh. I'm going to go slowly down. You might just get to here. For some people, you might get further. Kind of like you're pulling up your socks. So I usually do about 3 on either side. Good. Last one. Very good. Okay. Wonderful. All right. So as you come back in, heels and toes, back to your first position. All right. So this is going to be our transitional point to come to standing. Lots of people might choose to just do the seated warm-up today. You've done all of your spinal joints, neck, shoulder, hips, feet, ankles. You've done a little bit of everything already. And if that's enough for you, I thank you for your morning practice. If you'd like to do the last part of our practice, which is standing, then let's explore getting out of a chair. So seated at the edge of the chair, I always say to people, if you're going to get out of a chair and you're already at the back of the chair, you've got way more real estate that you've got to clear. So if it's available to you to come to the edge of the chair prior to getting out of a chair, it can be helpful. Bringing the heels a little closer under you. You want to think of your heels still touching the ground though, because it's really the heels that we want to use to push ourselves up to seated. Sometimes people use the ball of their foot, puts a lot more pressure on the front of the knee, and it's not as stable. So think of your heels. So wherever your heels can come back and still be on the floor. For some people, that might mean that one foot is a little closer. So that little bit of a stagger. So this is another option. You can see that one foot's a little in front, one foot's a little bit behind. This is also a great option if you can't get both feet to come back. That little staggered position might be helpful, but you're still really using the heels. So the key here is before you start pushing into the heels, see if you can shift more of your weight into your feet. That means hinging at the hip. So I'm going to hinge forward until I can feel some pressure and some weight in my feet. And then I'm just going to press into the feet to come up. Now, so that might look like that for you. That might mean you have to have your arms for the sides of the chair or some other technique that you've been doing. So it's just one way. Once you're standing, before you move into some movement, it's always helpful to bend the knees, kind of sink into the feet, spread out the toes, place them on the ground, and then press into the heels to stand tall and straighten the legs. So we're going to find a way to move into some balance practices and some hip stability practices that is safe for you, meaning the chair is going to become a little bit of a prop today. So what I might encourage you to do for the first part is have your chair here and come and stand at the side of the chair so that you have something to hold on to on the side. Okay? Right. Now keep in mind that within the yoga lexicon of movements, there is about 5,000 basic yoga postures and movements. 5,000. It's pretty amazing. So there's no end to what we can practice. That also means that there might be some things that you leave out today, and that's fine. There are other things, and that's why there's so much variation in these practices. It's because we're all quite unique. So the first thing we're going to do, standing at the side of the chair, is to see if we can find our sort of even balance and posture. So I'm going to bend my knees, sink into the heels. I might spread the toes, or lift the toes, spread them out, place them on the ground. Pressing into the feet as I come up to standing. Rolling the shoulders up, back, and down, elbows close, palms up. And you might bring your hands to your heart center. Good. Okay, so we are going to try a little balance practice on this side. We're going to shift our weight to the leg that's closest to your chair. If you need to hold the chair with your hand, please do so. Okay, so the leg that's not close to the chair, I'm going to lift the heel. The leg that's right on the outside. And I'm just going to see if you can encourage external rotation of the knee. And you might even bring the foot quite close so that the ball of the foot of the leg that's externally rotated is on the ground, pressing into the heels, lengthening through the crown of the head. Here you have what's called the kickstand, sort of a variation of tree. And if you're feeling comfortable here, you might stretch your arms up here and take a breath. You're rooting down through the feet and lengthening up through the crown of the head. That's it. And then as your hands come back down, knowing that you could keep your hand on the chair the whole time if you need. Turn the knee back to center, foot to the floor, back to both feet. Evenly weighting through the feet. Let's try it one more time, shifting your weight to the leg that's closest to the chair. Also might be helpful is to put a little bend in your standing leg. And lift the heel of the other leg. Turn the knee out. So keeping the foot on the floor a little bit, so this foot's slightly touching the floor, gives you a little bit of feedback while we're still maintaining most of our body weight on that other leg closest to the chair. For some of you, you might start to get curious about bringing the foot up to the inner calf, only if this is comfortable within a range of motion that's fine for your knee. Okay. You might stay holding the chair. You might bring your hands to the heart center. You might extend the arms up in the air. Once the arms are overhead, this is challenging your center of gravity. So take a breath here if you can. Could be one arm on the chair, one arm up in the air. Yeah, very good. And then as you come down, sit. Good. Take a moment to shake out the leg that you were just putting most of your weight on. Good. Okay, very good. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is come around to the other side. So this is a basic sort of way to start working with tree and one balancing on one leg. So if you'd like, you could do a little bit of sort of work to help with that front line, so strengthening the muscles that help your feet lift so you don't trip on our toes, would be walking on your heels. You can even hold on to the chair, keep your toes up, walk around to the other side of your chair. I'm just going to move my chair over. Just take your time. All right, so then once you're on the other side, before I begin, I always like to bend the knees, spread out the toes, have them make nice contact with the ground. Think of that tripod. You've got pressure, you're going to gently press through the mound of the toe, the pinky, and your heel, gently like a tripod. And then as you feel that connection, straightening the legs, shoulders rolling up, back, and down. And then we're going to shift the weight to the leg closest to the chair. Knowing that you can have a bend in your standing leg. Locked knees are not as stable sometimes. There's a little bit of a bend in the knee. Then the outer foot, I'm going to lift the heel. And I'm going to see if I can turn the foot out, which is going to take the knee out. I'm just going to balance on the ground. And then you might bring your hands to your heart center. I'm going to move over here so you can see my leg a bit better. It's kind of washing into that stool. So this is the position. And then just see if you're stable enough and comfortable enough and the arms could stretch overhead. Taking a breath or two. And then the arms come down. The foot turns back to center. And then taking your weight back evenly into both feet. So we'll do it one last time, and then you might explore bringing the leg higher and you might not. So I'm going to shift the weight that's closest to the chair. I'm going to bend that standing leg a little bit. The outer heel, turn it out. See if I can bring it to rest at the inner foot. And if that feels okay, I could bring it up a little higher. Just avoid the actual knee. You don't want to be on the knee joint, below the knee. That's it. Rooting down through your standing leg. Hands could come to the heart center. You might hold the chair with one arm. You might stretch one arm up. You might challenge yourself to stretch both arms up. Take a breath if you can. Think of rooting through your foot and lengthening through the crown of the head. Bring the hands back to the heart center. Maybe the hand to the chair. Turn the knee back to center and the foot to the ground. Very good. Shake out your feet. Okay. Very good. Okay, so now we're going to maybe stand behind the chair. So I'm going to move my chair out of the way completely because I'm okay without it. But it is fairly important to make sure you set yourself up for success in balance, knowing that you need something just in case in front of you or behind you or beside you, a wall, walker. So it becomes a little something that you might just need as something to hold on to. I'm going to move mine out of the way so you can look at my feet. Okay, so let's talk about weight shifting practices. Great for balance. Okay, so I'm going to start with my feet a little wider than my normal position. I'm going to bend my knees so I can sink into my feet. And I'm just going to encourage you to shift your weight over to one foot. Shift your weight back to center and over to the other. So the opposing heel might start lifting. Try that one more time, shifting through your center. So your weight is on one leg. Shifting through center, and then your weight is on the other leg. Very good. Now we'll see if we can add a little balance. So we're going to shift the weight over to your left leg. Your left arm might stretch up, your right arm might hold the chair, your right leg might lift. So whichever leg you're standing on, the same arm might stretch up and the leg out to the side. And slowly bend the knees, shifting to the other side. Arm might stretch up. Opposite leg might lift. It doesn't have to lift all the way off the floor. It could be on the ground a bit. Try that one more time, either side at your own pace. Bend the knees, shift into your feet. Feel the sensation of your weight shifting to one leg. Maybe then stretching and lengthening through the side body. That's it. Bend the knees, shifting through your other side. Lifting the other leg. There it is. Good. Wonderful. As you come back to your first position, I'm going to invite you to bring your feet into about hip width apart. Little shoulder roll, back and down. All right. All right, so this moment here, let's talk a little bit about balance, and something you can do that's really helpful for balance is working on the strengthening the back part of the leg and the foot. To do that, it's really about the heel lift. So if the hands could be on the chair in front of you, you might shift your weight onto the front of the foot and then see if you can lift your heels. And come down. And you don't have to go all the way up. So maybe you do a little lift. Maybe the whole lift is not available to you today. So you could have your hands on the chair in front of you. If you'd like a little added challenge, as the heels lift, you might lift the arms. Now, lifting both arms could be really challenging. So it might be one hand on the chair, shifting forward, letting one arm float up wherever it goes comfortably, and slowly coming down. And then try the other side. Slowly shifting forward, letting the arm float up. Maybe, if it's already a challenge just to do the footwork, leave the arms out until this feels more stable and comfortable. That's it. Try one more on either side. Think if this is a way to strengthen the calf muscles, the arches of the feet, really important muscles for balance. Down. That's it. Last one on the other side if you can. We'll sort of build on this practice next week. That's it. Very good. Wonderful. Let's shake out your arms. Shake out your legs. All right. So I just wanted to take a moment to work a little bit with a strap or a band. So with whatever you've got, if you've got something nearby that you could use, it could be a strap. If you have a stretchy band, they're a little better for this. But it's not necessary. So I wanted to give you a posture exercise this morning. If you decide you want to sit down and do this, you can. Feet can just be hip width apart. The key here is you want your arms really long, really, really long, really wide. So this is not a strength exercise. It's like a flossing exercise for the shoulder. It's great for posture. So I'm just encouraging you to see about getting your arms to go up, and only, you might even have to slide your hands wider, only if it's comfortable. The arms might come all the way behind you. If you have a restriction, Please honor your shoulder. Please do what is in a range of motion that is manageable for you. That might mean for some people that your range of motion is here. And if that's the case, do that. Okay? So just see what's available. Can you get the arms all the way around you comfortably? Maybe you have to widen your arms a little. So I'll show you that if my arms are not wide enough, if my arms are here, there's no amount of flexibility that's going to get my arm overhead. There's no way. I have to have my arms really, really, really wide in order for them to go behind me. That's it. Let's try that one more time if you can. Very good. Just take a moment, a little shoulder roll. Now we're going to bring our hands to shoulder height, shoulder width, with your band or your strap. So something else that happens, we talked a little bit about this in the thoracic spine today. So your rib cage goes all the way around, and it really anchors and stabilizes your shoulder blades. Very common when the arms go overhead, I'll see this back part of the rib cage kind of collapse inward, and the ribs pop forward. So it kind of looks like this. You kind of see that this part of my back kind of popped back. You know, you kind of lose that space in your thoracic spine. So what I'm encouraging you to do here, you hold your band, is as you allow your arms to go overhead, can you keep your rib cage really quiet? So I'll show you the difference. So if I take my arms overhead like this, see how my back is arching? Then I've lost that sort of stability in the rib cage. So what you might want to think of as your arms go overhead is breathing into the back of your ribs. So see if you can be really quiet with the rib cage not necessarily popping forward. Okay? Okay. Good. Now only if your arms go overhead comfortably, wherever they are, could be different for different bodies, you could do some circles. So you're just kind of circling the arms in one direction. Notice how quiet my rib cage is versus this. Yeah. So I see a lot sometimes of the whole body coming in. Can you just make this movement from the shoulder? And then as you come back to your first position, shoulder roll, maybe a shrug. Okay. If you're using a strap and doesn't have stretch, you're going to pull on it, but your arms aren't going to go anywhere, and that's okay. You're still activating some muscles. Okay. If you have a band, you can try to pull it out to the sides. Palms are down. So these contracting shoulder blades. It might be too much. You might widen your arms to create less tension. So now we're getting into strengthening some of the muscles in the back of the shoulders, also the posture. Yeah, so let's just see if you can try one more of those. Just stretching out and coming back to center. Good. Arms can come down. You can leave out your band. Oh, time flies. Shake out your hands. Very good. Okay, very good. So last thing I want to do is a little hip stretch. So you might also, if you're at the back of your chair, you could stay there, but I find it's a little easier to come and stand at the side of the chair so the leg has more movement. Okay? And I'm going to bring my chair back just to show you. Okay. So I'm going to do it sideways with you this way just so you can see. You're going to stand on the side of your chair. You're going to bring your weight to the leg that's closest to the chair, bend your knee. And then I'm going to bring the outer leg up. Just see, 90-degree angle or maybe less, whatever's comfortable for you. And then see if you can take the knee out to the side a little bit and down. So you're going to bring your knee up, out, and down. It doesn't have to be that high, especially if you've had a hip injury replacement or there's lots of clicking in the hip. Maybe you only bring it up halfway, a little out to the side, a little bit down, together. It's going to be different for everybody. We'll warm up for your hip. Sit one last time. Bring the knee up and out and down. Good. Now, if it's comfortable for you, you're going to bring your leg up to a 90-degree angle. I like to keep a little bend in my standing leg. Give it stability. You're going to imagine my leg that's bent is in this position. It's going to stay in that position. I'm moving from the hip. down towards the ground, maybe even behind me a bit, and then bring it back up again. That's it. Down towards the ground. So this is a nice one because it gets a little bit into those hip flexors, the psoas muscle, all the muscles that gets tight from sitting or flexing the hip. It's right there. That's it. Very good. Now, as the leg goes behind you, you could take the arm up, bend your standing leg, maybe hinging at the hip crease if you want to come forward a little bit. That's it, so a little standing balance on one leg. You could even take both arms out if you're feeling really ambitious this morning. Stable. Bring the leg in. Oh, shake out the legs. These standing balance practices are really challenging in many ways. One is the balance. Switch to the other side when you're ready. I'm going to do it forward for you this time to show you what that looks like. So you're on the other side of your chair. Last movement today. So balance poses, they challenge our weight bearing. So if it's really painful to stay in this position for a long period of time, take breaks. Try it one time and then take a break and put your feet down. Right? So it depends. Like if standing on one leg for a long period of time is really giving you discomfort in your ankle, your knee, or your hip, you might do it for a moment and then take the weight off. That's also optional. Weight bearing generally is good for the bones. So standing on one leg is good for our balance, but also our bone density, but not if it's causing you sharp pain in any part of your body. Just keep that in mind. So I'm going to shift my weight to the leg that's closest to the chair, warming up the hip. Knee comes up, knee goes out, and down. Let's see what's available for you today. Yep, maybe 4 of those. You can choose to do more or less if you like. Okay, so this time I'm going to bring the knee up to a 90-degree angle. A little bit of flexion in the heel. That just kind of keeps my hip and my knee and my foot aware. I'm going to gently bring the knee down towards the ground. So I'll just show you what that looks like. Side, knee coming up, knee coming down. That's it. 2 more if you can. Good. So now as your knee is pointing down towards the ground, bend your standing leg a little bit. You might extend the other arm. You might stretch the back leg out. And then if you're going to come forward, you're hinging at the hip. So I'm not bending in my back. I'm hinging at the hip. You might be standing on one leg here. Sometimes people call this airplane, but technically this is warrior 3. You could be holding the chair the whole time. 3, 2, 1. Very good. That's a tough one. So shake it out. Remember that balance is something we cultivate, and in the yoga tradition is a wonderful way to help build a focus and concentration in the mind. It's hard to make a grocery list while you're standing on one leg. So in your time, when you're ready, just come back to your chair to do a little back stretch and to sort of talk about next week's class. So as you come around to the front of your seat, make sure the chair is always there, really important. I like to bend the knees, hinge at the hip, shift the weight into the heels. So this is called chair pose. This is a great last balance pose. And then very slowly, always double check the chair is actually there. There's nothing fun about missing the chair. And then coming down. And if that's too much, just coming down in an easeful way. Okay, very good. Great. So let's just take that forward position to release your lower back if there's any sensation there. One big breath in. Exhale, hinging forward. The heels might lift. Bring the chin into your chest. And then your time when you're ready, slowly come up. Very good. Shoulder rolls. And then last 3 shoulder shrugs. So you allow your shoulders to inch up and come down. 2 more like that. Last one. Just taking a moment, maybe your hands over the heart center. You might close your eyes for a moment just to notice how you're feeling in this moment. Just for 3 breaths, notice the spacious movement of breathing in, how it creates some spaciousness in the body. And that softening, letting go, sinking back as you exhale. So taking a moment to thank yourself for making the effort to be here, whether it was for all the practice or little bits of it. And so I thank you for your practice today. So next week's practice, I am going to incorporate a little bit more of the stretchy bands. So if you don't have one yet, you've got a whole week to think about maybe obtaining one. They're really easy to find. They're chiropractors, physio, massage therapists, London Drugs, Canadian Tire, lots of places. Sometimes they're called TheraBands. That's just a brand, but some other stretchy bands are available. They're really helpful for just feeling that little bit of muscular engagement. And we're going to use them a little more next week. So if you don't have one, it might be something you consider looking into this week. So I thank you for your practice. And that was our hour always goes by really quickly for me, hopefully for you as well. If you have questions, you can leave them in the comments. And I hope to see you next week. So thank you so much for your time and for taking the opportunity to slow your practice down a little bit and be a little more observational in your movements. Thank you again. Hope you have a wonderful week, and I hope that you come back again. Thank you. Where's my tech guy who can turn it off for me?